Elder Father Germanos, Bulgarian. He passed to the Lord in 1875. In the Kukuzel desert at Hier lived Elder Father Germanos. His secular name was Georgios, but how he lived in the world is unknown. It is only known that he first entered the monastery of Kosvenica, where he took the monastic tonsure and lived there for 10 years. After the end of the Greek uprising, he traveled to Athos and went to see his spiritual father, who had arrived earlier from Kosmenica and settled in the monastery of Xeropotamu. After staying there for 4 months and observing the life of the monastery, he refused to remain in Xeropotamu. His spiritual father tried to persuade him to stay, but Father Germanos replied, I seek an elevated life and have come to enter either a cenobitic monastery or to go in the desert, but here it is idiorhythmic. If I am to live like this, it would be better to return to Kosmenica. With that, he left his spiritual father and set off across the holy mountain. Upon arriving at the city of Kafsokalivia and inquiring about the elders, he went to Elder Father Daniel the Lame, who lived in the cell of the holy archangels. The elder asked him, Why have you come to me? To give you a little alms, replied Father Germanos, and handed him 100 coins. It was the third day of Pascha, and Elder Daniel had nothing to eat. He thanked him, while Father Germanos asked him about everything that troubled his soul. Then he went to the skid's spiritual father and said, Bless me, Father, to become a disciple of Elder Daniel. The spiritual father, testing him, said, What do you have on mind? He has nothing to eat, and besides, he is ill. Father Germanos replied, It doesn't matter that he has nothing to eat. He is a spiritual elder, and I am not looking for a father to provide me with bread, but a guide for my soul. If that is so, said the spiritual father, go, may God bless you. Father Germanos went, bowed before the elder, received his blessing, and lived with him for 14 years, eventually receiving the great schema from him. 2 years later, Elder Daniel went blind. When Father Germanos first became his disciple, the elder filled a bag with lemons and sent him to the Lavra to exchange them for dried bread. The amount of bread he brought back was sufficient for them for 6 weeks. Later, he obtained a measure of rice from the skid, which lasted him a long time. They used oil only for the church lamps. Elder Father Daniel, besides his blindness, suffered greatly from his legs, so that he could only walk in the summer, and even then only by supporting himself with sticks. Father Germanos served him in all things with self-denial. Elder Daniel was a spiritual man. He strictly observed the monastic life, neither deviating to the right nor to the left. He possessed prayer so much so that even in sleep it remained active within him. Throughout his life on the holy mountain, he observed fasting on Wednesdays and Fridays, even if it was a feast of the Lord. He said he did this because he was illiterate, and he followed this practice out of his simplicity. Once he heard in church the reading of an account about a certain monk who had died. It was revealed to a holy man that 3 angels were accompanying the monk's body. That holy man asked, Why are these 3 angels accompanying him? I understand that one is his guardian angel, but what about the other two? The angels replied, "This monk observed fasting on Wednesdays and Fridays throughout his entire life, and for this reason we were sent by God to honor his body at burial and to present his soul to the Lord in glory." Upon hearing this, Elder Daniel resolved from that moment on to do the same. Although he was illiterate, if he heard something once, he would immediately put it into practice, and with such determination that he would never abandon what he had undertaken. He lived on Mount Athos for more than 50 years and passed away at around 80 years of age. After Elder Daniel's repose, Father Germanos lived in Kapsokalivia for another 20 years, then moved to Hyer, where he remained until his death. The lives and spiritual struggles of the Holy Fathers, Father Daniel and the Elder Father Germanos, are truly remarkable. Elder Father Daniel's elder was David, and David's elder was Christophoros. Elder Father David was blind. His disciple would lead him to vigils and liturgies in the main church. Despite his physical blindness, Father David had the gift of foresight and foretold his own death. It happened on Great Thursday. After receiving the Holy Mysteries, the elder said, "With Christ's resurrection, I shall depart to the Lord, but first I will eat a red-colored egg, and then I will go." And so it happened. On Pascha, after the Divine Liturgy, he returned to his cell, asked for an egg, said, "Forgive me," and surrendered his spirit to the Lord. He was buried the same evening during the Paschal hymns at Vespers. Elder Christophoros, the spiritual father of Father David, served the Lord in simplicity. He was so guileless that once, while still a disciple, he heard about the 40 martyrs who froze to death in a lake and wished to do the same himself. To that end, he planned to climb into a cistern filled with water in winter. However, as a true disciple, he first told his elder about it. The elder rebuked him. His silence was unshakable. He lived on Mount Athos for more than 60 years. From the notes of Father Panteleimon. When we visited Father Germanos, we found him ill, but in abundant grace-filled consolation. It was late, and we were in a hurry. "I caught a cold," said the elder, "and my teeth hurt terribly, giving me no peace. But having such a caretaker, the Queen of Heaven, who promised St. Peter that she would be the provider and sustainer of those living here, I went to the place where St. Peter lived and anointed my face in the form of a cross with the oil from the lamp before the icon of the Theotokos. It is impossible," continued the elder, "to live in the desert without encountering some form of trial. One must only have patience, for through this the Lord arranges our salvation." "You, Father, are accustomed to patience," we said, "but we are faint-hearted and cannot endure anything. What effort lies ahead for us to reach such a state?" "It is nothing. Little by little one can grow accustomed. It is not necessary to undertake great feats all at once, but to start with small ones. Saint Antony spent his entire life without eating food with oil or drinking wine, yet he did not impose this rule on anyone. As for the temptations, one must simply have the prayer of the publican. For us, the only thing necessary is humility. With the other virtues, one can fall, but humility never falls." Here, on this very spot, in a small hut, lived an elder from Moldova named Gerasimos, who reposed around 1820. Once, three elders appeared to him in a dream and said, "The three of us live nearby. Do not disturb us, and tell others not to disturb us either." The elder told his spiritual father about the vision. His spiritual father was the well-known elder Neophytos Karamanlis, who constantly traveled through the deserts to hear confessions and bring communion to the hermits. Elder Neophytos decided to search for the relics of these three elders who had appeared to his spiritual child. He explored all the caves, there were many, moved stones aside, but found nothing. Some time later, the saints revealed themselves to the same elder in the following manner. Whenever he passed through the desert along the path leading to St. Nilos, he would always sense a fragrance. But when these God-pleasing men wished to reveal themselves to him, the fragrance became so intense that he was involuntarily stopped in his tracks. It was as if an entire cloud had surrounded him on all sides. Then he felt a strong desire to find out where the fragrance was coming from, so he began searching. He wandered for a long time until he stopped near a stone wall where the scent was strongest. After praying, he removed one stone, then another, a third, and behind them he saw an empty space. He continued to clear away stones, and behind the wall a cave appeared. When he had opened it enough to enter, he heard a voice. "Do not disturb us. We are three. We lived here and were buried here, and we wish for no one to trouble us." The elder then closed the entrance to the cave and left. Afterward, only his disciple Hilarion knew the location of this place. Father Germanos also recounted, St. Acacius of Capsocalivia had great love for St. Maximus, and in every thought he turned to him in prayer. Because of his faith and love to St. Maximus appeared to him many times. Once he saw St. Maximus with many others following him, all dressed in white robes, with only their monastic schema remaining ordinary. St. Acacius asked, "Who are these following you?" St. Maximus replied, "These are those who lived in this desert, whom I instructed during my life, and they followed my teachings." That is how it was, continued Father Germanos, and it is still the same today. Even now there are such people about whom no one knows. They may live like others, but no one knows the height of their spiritual state, just as no one recognized St. Maximus during his lifetime. Everyone considered him deluded, and not for a year or two, but for 50 years, until St. Gregorius of Sinai revealed him. Elder Germanos exclaimed, "How many ruined huts do we find here? How many caves, where it is evident that venerable fathers lived and were saved. Just 2 days ago, a brother found a small ruined hut lower down from mine, near the sea, in such a place that I cannot understand how anyone could have lived there. Yet someone did. My hut has existed for many years, and many have lived in it, yet no one had discovered this small dwelling before. That is why these deserts are filled with holy relics, but they remain unrevealed. Elder Neophytos Karamanlis, as much as he searched, could not find them because the departed saints do not wish to be discovered. Speaking of the ascetics of the past, Father Germanos recalled what he had heard from his elder Father Daniel. In earlier times, the Capsocalivia skit was inhabited by venerable elders, similar to the great fathers of old. We, the brethren of the skit, walked before them with great reverence. The elders stood like pillars, unmoving, at vigils from evening until morning, never turning their gaze to the side. All of them were silent. Idle talk did not exist among them. Even when speaking of necessary matters, they spoke little and only when truly needed. They preserved the spiritual life with great caution. Among them, one elder shone with particular holiness, Father Avxentius. Among the elders, he was like a luminary. He lived in the cell of St. Georgius. He had only one clay pot in which he boiled herbs that he gathered from the desert, and this was all he ate. Sometimes he also consumed bread, but nothing more. He lived in a skit for about 60 years. After his death, his disciple, Elder Neophytos Karamanlis, remained, a spiritual father who reposed in 1860, over 100 years old. Recalling another ascetic, Elder Germanos recounted the following. The disciple of Elder Cyprian, Gabriel, was highly skilled. He could do any kind of work, which is why the brethren of the skit turned to him for everything. Whether something broke or even if a clock stopped working, Father Gabriel never refused to help, serving others out of love for his neighbor. Since he lived by the labor of his hands, it was impossible not to reward his efforts, so the brethren would ask him to accept compensation. Then Father Gabriel would calculate how much time he had spent making an item and how much he would have earned from his own handiwork during that period. He made spoons and prayer ropes, and he would accept exactly that amount from those who asked him to take payment and not a single coin more. In this way he preserved his conscience. Those who were present at his passing saw that the elder was smiling and that his face was radiant, but they failed to ask him what he was seeing. They ran to Elder Nikephoros, who had discovered the relics of St. Nilos in 1815, and told him about it. Nikephoros said to them, "Run quickly and ask him what he sees." But by then the elder soul had already departed to the Lord. Elder Daniel was also there and later recounted all of this. After the repose of Father Gabriel, his disciple Father Gerasimos remained in the cell of St. John the Theologian. He passed away around 1865 at over 100 years of age. During the winter of 1869 to 70, Elder Germanos was snowed in and spent 10 days without bread. That same year, a layman who wished to enter monastic life fell ill and, upon reaching Elder Germanos' hermitage, became completely bedridden. The elder selflessly cared for the sick man, depriving himself of nearly all necessities for a year and a half. At the man's request, the elder tonsured him, giving him the name Christopher. After recovering, the newly tonsured monk began expressing discontent. Unable to endure the elder's austere life, he desired fish, oil, and other comforts, and when he did not find them, he left the elder. After his departure, another disciple joined him, also named Christopher.